I wanna mention about the global context of the Chinese visit because the region is going through a turmoil. I mean, the whole world is going through a turmoil and serious transition, big changes, and this is affecting everybody in the region. And we see after the maybe weakening of Russia, uh, and Central Asian countries began to maybe act more independently. Still, I mean, not to the highest level, but we see kind of uh, seeking for independence or more autonomy in their economic policies and foreign policies. Similar approach we are seeing also in the Middle East, especially from the American and Western hegemony in the Arabian Gulf, Arabian countries. When, of course, this war started between two superpowers, or maybe three superpowers. Ukraine war is between Russia, America, and Europe. So this has major impact on oil prices, food prices. Arab countries are impacted from it negatively on the food price side, but positively on the gas and oil part. They are making a lot of money, and Qatar is one of them. Of course, the West want to diversify or want to avoid Russian gas and maybe look for alternatives. Qatar is a good a source for alternative source for it. Algeria, Libya, and some other countries, African countries. Azerbaijan is also signed a big deal with the Europeans to increase the flow of gas. So many serious things are happening, and of course, Arabian Gulf also began to act more independently, especially after the American surprise withdrawal from Afghanistan. And we see that Arab countries began to worry if America also leaves from the Gulf and they come face to face with Iran, who is going to protect them, who is going to defend them. This is a serious question. Even Trump, he promised many things, but he couldn't prevent the attack on Aramco and also several facilities in the UAE. Aramco, as you know, is the biggest oil company in the region and in the world, and it was a big shock to the Saudis why Americans didn't prevent or even take a serious action against it. And again, we have a world changing world, and we see the soil is moving under our feet. So this is another part, and of course, as a competing but not challenging superpower, China is competing with America, but not challenging America. We should be cautious. We should not go after, put all of our bet to the Chinese part, because China also has its own interest, and this creates kind of maybe some hopes. But we know China is very patient, is going very slowly. We will not solve our, Middle East problems like Palestine or Syrian crisis or Yemeni crisis. So China is going very patiently and slowly, and also not challenging the Western hegemony, responding to some of the maybe threats and or kind of intimidations by the West, but not taking the sword to fight like Russia. Russia, I think, is trapped and dive into this conflict blindly, and now is paying the price. It's going to be hard for Russia, but also giving a serious challenge. Russia is, but China is not entering the same line and the same way. So overall, we see a new picture, and in this picture, China saying, "I am here in the Gulf economically," he says, but there are of course confidence building, some agreements, serious agreements. I think Gökhan will talk about them in more detail. Yes, Gökhan.
Thank you. Thank you, Hojam. Hojam, actually, I think we can say that there is this rebranding issue. In the 2000s, international relations in the Gulf region had to include political economic parameters as effective variables alongside the geopolitical ones. Because against this backdrop, with the World Cup being held in Qatar, I think it is anticipated that Qatar will likely take the lead in the Gulf economic struggle, maybe in the short to medium term, maybe in the longer term. Although Qatar, we can say, has a gross domestic product of less than Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates as of now, it has already developed a strong image through its global brands such as Al Jazeera, such as Qatar Airways. I think the World Cup being held in Qatar is adding a fruitful phenomenon to this branding and rebranding issue, not only in Qatar but also in the Gulf states as well. Because, as you know, the fact that the Gulf Cooperation Council countries they are always benefiting from the World Cup being held in Qatar, because hotels in Dubai, hotels in Riyadh, maybe hotels also in Iran and in Kuwait are full of visitors, tourists. I mean, I can say that economic liveliness and economic life is becoming more and more strict and more livable in the Gulf region because of this World Cup. Also, as you know, that Qatar stands out as a country affluent in natural resources. You talked about the Russia and Ukraine war. It is becoming Gulf region and also Qatar becoming an energy exporter. Biden and Qatari Emir Tamim bin Hamad talked about the LNG transfer Qatar becoming more and more important, not just for the Europe but also for the United States, particularly amid a worldwide energy crisis. Qatar, all these developments may allow Qatar to convert the attention it receives during this World Cup into long-term political, economic profits and leverages, we can say. Also, in a nutshell, we can say that the most significant influence of gathering large events, establishing, founding, holding large events on the Gulf, I think I can say on the Gulf political economy, is that they stimulate and diversify the Gulf's economic struggle, making it an issue of prestige for the monarchies in the region. And also the Chinese visit to Saudi Arabia, I think it is a manifestation of these economic struggle. As you know, the visit of the president of China to
Yes,
Saudi Arabia.
Gürkan, one parenthesis before we move to China.
Of course,
I
hocam.
think China and Qatar also did a great job to depict the Muslims in a more sympathetic way, Arabs in a more sympathetic way. In the stadiums, we see a lot of Europeans and Asians wearing the Arabian garments or Arabian head cover, and this was interesting. I mean, it was, I think, an arena for intercultural dialogue and interaction. I think it was useful. As I said, if anybody wants to add before we move it to please ask Mike, and then we're gonna move to the China's visit to the Gulf.
We can take the questions at the end also, hocam.
Yes,
If there
at
is
the
not
end,
any
yeah.
question.
Then I mean, but anybody wants to talk can join us.
Of course.
And you can move to now to the China's visit, and you mentioned some of it, but why the timing is also very important this time. Yes, please go.
Actually, hocam, the visit of the president of China to Saudi Arabia and the summits with other Arab countries, there is the summit of Chinese Saudi Arabia and also the Chinese and Arab states summit. There were also Gulf states countries and also Egypt and also other countries, other Arab countries. They have held a together together summit with China. I think this is all about, firstly, of course, increasing the size of economic and commercial partnership for the Arab countries with China. in this context, the fact that China, especially which already has a serious economic potential in the Middle East, realizes such summits shows that the Arab countries are trying to fill the gap with China due to Russia and Ukraine war and the withdrawal of the US from the region. However, we can say that as the visit to Saudi Arabia and the high-level attendees of these summits show, demonstrate, China Gulf and China Middle East relations have emerged not only as a result of these cyclical developments, conjectural developments, but also as a more permanent and structural economic and strategic partnership. Also, we have seen that leaders aim to continue this of both Xi Jingpin of China, both Saudi Arabia's Prime Minister and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and other heads of states and heads of governments aim to continue this critical partnership with China. We have seen that China is becoming more and more an alternative to both United States and also Russia. Of course, one of the important things between these two summits, one of them is between China and the GCC countries. I think this summit stands out as one of the most comprehensive summits held in recent times. It is understood that China and the GCC countries, I can say, they are currently discussing issues that affect their common interest and that may affect them in the future. I think it is important that these countries they are not talking about these current issues, but they are also talking about the future issues. Talking about both the existing and future cooperation, I can say it refers to the fact that the relations strategic in nature, not only cyclical, not only conjectural, but also strategic. Also, the most important point here is that it can be seen that the Gulf countries are on the eve of transforming their partnership with China into a comprehensive strategic partnership. Hocam, maybe I think it is better for us to talk about questions and answers. So, do you think that these current events and these current climate of Chinese and GCC, do you see it as a permanent or a cyclical development?
I think it's not as permanent. We should still test it, and we should see what both sides can deliver to each other. But at the end, we are now seeing kind of the Gulf region's effort to diversify its relations, economic relations, security relations, diplomatic relations. We've seen that before with Russia, and Russia can deliver some weaponry. Let's not forget, Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest importers of weapons and arms. Also, let's not forget, Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest exporter of oil. Let's not again forget China is one of the biggest importers of oil with this huge economy, huge machine, huge wheel of economy, needs a lot of energy, and they need Gulf oil flowing continuously and stably. So their relations are valuable. Plus, I think China has trade concerns that is a new Silk Road, or their newly called Road and Belt project, will pass through the Arab region and the Middle East, which is part of also the heart of the world, connecting three continents, Asia, Europe, and Africa. So the Arab region and the Middle East and Turkey, including Turkey, lie in this triangle. So Chinese goods has to pass through this region. So this region is very important for China and for everybody, for Russia and for America also. And this region gaining some confidence and some after testing grounds with American threats like Turkey did before. The threats, Turkey survived and resisted to these threats. And now Saudi Arabia and other countries are testing these threats and realize that America need the Arab countries more than the otherwise. I mean, more than the Arab countries need America. and this is another, I think, implication that they realize America is not a god. I mean, hasha, we say in Turkish. I mean, they have limits, and they have also confusion now with Biden administration, with a lot of lobbies coming in and going. Somebody supporting the oil lobby, some are, with other discourses, etc. There is a confusion in America, and China is filling the gap, but not so aggressively, very patiently, and very kind of prudently, let's say. And this is, I think, serious, but not a major thing. I mean, why also significant? This is the third visit by the Xi Jingpin to our side after Corona. The first visit was to Kazakhstan, which is also a battleground between Russia and China, kind of also very significant in both material resources and neighborhood in the huge territory for Kazakhstan. So China made the first visit to Kazakhstan. I think the second one to the G20. Now the third one to Kazakhstan is an oil country. To Saudi Arabia, and again an oil country. This also shows something that, I mean, Chinese priorities are on oil and energy, and this we can see this on this example.
Also, Hocam, as an addition to what you have said already, Chinese President Xi Jinping has made a statement that he said that we are increasing our oil trade with Saudi Arabia. I think the energy part is becoming more and more important in the relations between China and also with the Gulf states. I think we can look at the statement, Hocam, published after the summit. I think it is an important point to comment not only on the economic and commercial partnerships, the energy partnerships between China and the Gulf countries, but also on international issues and issues in the Middle East and Asia. The statement that came out after the summit between Arab states and China, they have talked. The summit, the statement talked about not only on the international issues but also the issues in Middle East and Asia. I think this is an important development because it shows the Chinese commitment, Chinese interest in the Middle East and Asia. One Emirati professor said to me, we need to deal with China not as an economic, not as an commercial power, but also political and military power. So some of the people and some of the academics, both in scholarly publishings, and also think tank and other media, they say that China is only an economic and commercial power, but we have seen that, I think now, China is also a political and also military power because its interests in not only in international issues but also in the issues in Middle East and Asia. In addition, we can say that the adoption of a common position not only on current issues but also on historical issues with China and the Gulf countries is important thing. As you know, there is this in this statement. The one of the articles is that China and Gulf countries adopts a common approach and adopts a common position against Iran, especially such as the historical issue between the UAE and Iran. I think this shows that the GCC relations with China are based on more permanent foundations. But as you have said already, Hocam, I think we need to test it also. But I think I can say that there are many tests coming for this region, especially U.S. And Russia issues. You know that Russian invasion of Ukraine could test this Chinese and GCC partnerships. Also, the U.S.'s changing position of U.S. You know that in 2024 there is this U.S. presidential elections How can we understand these issues? Hocam, do you think that if there is a change in the US presidency from Biden to Trump or from Biden to anyone, or we say, or can we say that from Biden to Harris, as we say, do you think that it affects or it changes the relations between China and the GCC countries, or the Chinese policy, Chinese expedition to the Chinese reach to the region?
Yes, I think there are changes. I think Biden want to repeat Obama too, normalization with Iran and build on this legacy. But I think the Ukraine war and also Saudi resistance kind of messed this project up or prevented this project because they want to normalize with Iran, but Saudis are very, I mean, upset about it, and especially the Saudi Arabia, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is very upset, and now they kind of pushed Biden pressure back. They push it back, and now we see a change in Biden discourse. Biden, he was kind of humiliated to go to Saudi Arabia, kind of meet after threats, meet with Mohammed bin Salman, but Mohammed bin Salman didn't deliver that time because before the elections, Biden needed lowered oil prices to win the elections, and Mohammed bin Salman did not deliver. Then we saw that America, our Biden administration now gave up on the suing MBS in the American courts. Now they said this is the Saudi courts business, and now we see kind of a backpedaling or kind of retreating from the earlier stance from the Biden administration. As I said, this Ukraine war changed the projects, especially Iranian affiliation and Iranian commitment to the Russian war with drone and technical other aids. And there was also a statement yesterday. They almost Russia and Iran, they reached almost like a complete partnership. Americans see it that way. So they want to punish Russia. Then they want to punish also Iran. So they are getting closer to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf countries, especially, I mean, Obama, he kind of changed the American track. He had problems with traditional allies, American allies like Gulf countries, Israel and Turkey. Obama messed the relations up with them and get closer to Iran. Now, I think Biden slowly, but the conditions, of course, are different. He's getting back to the more traditional American approach because the big geopolitical game is at play right now, and he has to make reassessments. And I see a change. I mean, to give a short answer to your question, change even not from Trump to Biden, but even during the Biden administration, from the early days until now, after 2 years, maybe we see a major change because the global picture is changing.
Yes, yes, Hocam, thank you. I think at the same time, it has been implied in the statement that the security of the GCC is the security of China, and both with the summit and the declaration issued after it, there is this statement and also the
Have Ibrahim
policy will.
if he is available, he can comment on maybe how
We
this
can
will
hear from him.
impact. Please ask microphone if you're available to how this will impact on Africa. He is following Africa very quickly, and both China and Saudi Arabia or Gulf countries are interested in Africa also. Maybe a short comment on this. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Hocam. Yes, Hocam.
Ibrahim Bey, you can ask Mike if you like.
Yes, Hocam. This is also an interesting issue. But as I was saying, at the same time, there is this statement or the policy will, we can say, between the GCC countries and also the China. The Chinese security is GCC security, and also the GCC security is Chinese security. I think, therefore, the strategic partnership dimension of GCC China relations is seen here. when I was going through the statement, I have seen that both leaders, of course, the Chinese and the Arab states, they stressed the need to support the treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, and also they referred the call on Iran to fully cooperate with the International Atomic Energy Agency's requirements for the nuclear energy's peaceful purposes, peaceful usage. I think it is interesting that both China and Arab countries share a common position against, not against, but on or over Iran and also Yemen. As you know, with the Biden administration is coming to the presidency, coming to the administration, Yemen issue and also the Iranian issue of Iranian nuclear arms pursue Iran. These issues, of course, affected how Biden administration tasks crafts policies, and also we see that China and GCC countries are making comments on these issues. Also, they say that. I think sovereignty and territorial integrity are quite sensitive topics for Arab and GCC countries. You know that both Arab countries say that we support Chinese sovereignty and territorial integrity. And also China say that we support Arab territorial integrities. But I think, Hocam, do you know, or how do you say that? How do you comment on that, Hocam? I think with this term
this
of
is serious.
territorial integrity, I think it is meant Taiwan, but there is
Yes,
no such
Taiwan, yes.
refer to
Taiwan,
the
maybe a
Taiwan,
little
but I
bit
think
also Uyghur region.
maybe yes,
I mean, Uyghur region is more problematic because they are Muslim Turks that are China is dealing with them, and there's pressure on this. And of course, one China principle also is also critical, and this is against American line also. Of course, America doesn't say they want to divide China, but they are the one who give the real support to Taiwan, and it is again similar to the Ukraine war. I think the West or America is losing the Arabian support for their causes. And if you remember last month, the Algerian or the Arab summit in Algeria officially announced that almost all Arab countries, they are neutral in the Ukraine war. So this is like a
of course,
big
Hocam.
blow to the American influence in the region, meaning that these Arab countries are not listening to America, and diplomatically this should be worrying uh, for America. So I think there are serious what's called messages from this statement. Yes.
Also, Hocam, I think we can talk about there is this understanding of financial capacities, the cooperation between China and GCC states on financial regulations, and also joint councils on investments, and also supporting sovereign funds from both sides. I think I remember 5G and 6G technologies. The GCC states, especially the UAE and I think Saudi Arabia's issues are mingling towards a bad thing between Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Biden administration, because they use Chinese technology, Chinese 5G and 6G technologies. Not just, I think there is no 6G technology right now in GCC, but I think they try to use and realized the issue of usage in 5G technologies in UAE, and I think they say that we in the statement the readiness for conducting cooperation on 5G technologies and financial regulations supporting sovereign funds is also a blow to the US. I think because we know that always GCC countries rely on Western support. They rely on US, they rely on the European countries, but we see that there is some kind of change in these issues. Hocam, especially, you said that Biden administrations, especially Biden's himself, coming to Saudi Arabia, Jeddah. But also we see that Biden administration did not deliver what it promised to the American people and also the European world, because after Biden went to United States again from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia and Mohammed bin Salman did the opposite from they talk about.
In a speech last month at a conference in Bahrain, Brett McCrack, the Biden administration's top Middle East official, warned there are certain partnerships with China that would degrade a ceiling to what you can do. But Saudi Arabia's foreign minister, Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud, said the kingdom, the Saudi Arabia, which largely relies on United States military weapons sales and security aid.
Dr. Wata, come close a little bit. Your voice is low.
Is now clear? Is now clear?
No, clear, but I mean, not very loud. We need more louder.
Well, this, maximum. What can I do, Hajam?
Okay, just continue.
I think it
no
is better
problem.
now. It is better now.
It's better now?
Yes, Hocam, it is better.
With the return to my idea, he said, Faisal bin Farhan would seek to purchase a good relationships with United States and China at the same time. Faisal bin Farhan in same conference said we don't see it as a zero sum by any means. It's not a zero sum game between China and the United States. The announcement from Riyadh on drawing closer to China were not a course corrections. As Gulf officials say, the United States has drawn distance from the region, while it focused on other parts of the world. Continuous Middle Eastern energy producers feel they can't rely on the United States in the same. They think that being closer to China gives them multiple benefits. It puts them closer to the world's largest oil importers. It gives them access to things the Americans won't give them, and it makes the Americans a little jealous, giving them some leverage. The relations still has a long way.
انقطاع في صوتك يا دكتور. Either maybe your coverage is not strong, or
maybe I faced some internet issues.
Maybe.
Well,
please summarize, yes, because we cannot hear well.
Well, okay. I will, as conclusion to my speech, however, the relationship still has a long way. I mean, relationship between China and GCC countries has a long way to go if it became as deep and nuanced allies. Thank you. I think. Thank you very much. Because
thank you, doctor.
I'm so sorry for internet issues. I'm so sorry.
Thank you hocam. Thank you.
Gökhan, I think we can wrap it up. Just to summarize, if you want to add something, I want to say that Arab countries come together in this World Cup. It was a good feeling for Muslims also, for good solidarity. Also, the biased pressure or attacks, media attacks on Qatar kind of united Arabs also, and this created a sense of solidarity among them. I think this is overall good, to have kind of the Western countries are united with the European Union. There is a good coordination between Europe and America, good coordination between America, the UK, Australia, all the way to Japan and South Korea. So Muslim countries also should be united and coordinated. And it's, I think, gives a kind of sense of popular and maybe social dimension of sense of unity, especially with the success of the Moroccan team. And of course, as I said, we are living in a volatile world, and everything counts, and we see new changes in the global scale. And also, we are gonna follow this, and on the diplomatic and more hardcore politics, we see the visit of Chinese president to the region as a very serious, implications, and economic and other maybe impacts we'll see later. I think that's maybe all I can say. And you want to add something, Gökhan? Then we can wrap.
Hocam, there is nothing major I can add. I am totally agreeing that the World Cup is a unification factor for all the Arab countries, Muslim countries around the world, especially these irrational and foundationless criticisms against Qatar. And also the Chinese reach out to the Saudi and GCC states and Arab states. We see that a more rational, a more balanced policy of Gulf region, and also the fact that Chinese president visit Saudi Arabia and GCC states, and also Biden administration, the Biden himself visited GCC states, shows that the GCC is becoming more and more the center of the Middle East, more and more one of the most important sub-regions, not only of the Middle East, but also from the world. As we are coming and also amidst a energy crisis, a worldwide energy crisis, we see that the importance of the GCC states, of the value of the GCC states, not for Turkey, not for Russia, not for US, but also for the whole world, is becoming more and more important. And today, I think, Hocam, we can wrap it up from here. We thank all the listeners and participants for this fruitful session. Thank you.